I don't know, whatever that expression is. From here on out, I know the Democrats are going to continue along investigation lines. I think the Republicans are now going to use the opportunity to press for a grand jury for how this whole thing got started in the first place. Chuck, do you think that's going to? I mean, there's going to be dueling investigations again as we move forward from here.
Yeah, it's Joe. It seems a little bit like in Game of Thrones with the Starks and the Lannisters fighting over the Iron Throne. When the socialists, Night King Bernie Sanders is kind of marching towards the wall, but it's not clear at all that the White House necessarily wants to move beyond this. The president seems to thrive on confrontation, and we shall see. But I think Eamon was right earlier when he said the markets will really only care if this seems to materially affect the president's chances next November, and that seems unlikely.
Well, that's something to be talking about lasting through November of 2020. I mean, that was what previously. Now you're saying, does it hurt his chances for re-election? It used to be, does it hurt his chances from finishing the first term? So that's a switch, isn't it, James?
Progress.
Yeah.
Do I get to use Game of Thrones references too?
Absolutely.
This will not be a Dracarys.
No nudity.
This will not be only mild nudity in the show.
Okay.
This will not be a Dracarys moment. Listen, it's my sense that the Wall Street consensus is that the president is a narrow favorite for re-election. It would take startling new evidence, I think, to change that thesis. So do we expect to see startling new evidence? I mean, I don't. I think we'll see just how close the collusion stuff got to criminal conspiracy. There'll probably be some, sort of uncomfortable nuggets of information for the president. But I don't think this is going to change that thesis. Again, that would take some pretty big news, and we've been given no indication that that's what's in this report.
Do either of you get the notion do you get the idea that Mueller has been sitting here watching all this going, I'm ready to explode to set the record straight for what I actually found? Or do you think he's been comfortable with the spin and the characterization that the White House and Attorney General Barr have put on it, Chuck?
I doubt he's been comfortable with the spin and characterization, but I'm sure he absolutely doesn't want to touch this. It's interesting that Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats, very angry about the way this has been pre-briefed to the White House and how Barr will pre-brief it, and then the White House will spin it just as the Congress gets it. How she's already called for Mueller to testify. So, I don't think he's necessarily pleased with that. And we've seen some stories to the effect that some of the counsels who work with him at DOJ have been upset with the way that Barr seemed to sort of soft sell.
Do you think it's appropriate?
Do I think it's appropriate? What?
Do you think that the communications between the White House and the Department of Justice and Barr throughout this process, the rebuttal that's apparently been drafted in advance, do you think that's appropriate?
Yeah, I don't think they're inappropriate, Andrew. But on the other hand, given the way that the White House continues to spin that, they're made to seem that way. They're spinning this as basically the aircraft having landed 2 weeks ago, and we're just basically going to see if it was a bumpy ride now. So, unfortunately, it is made to seem so.
James?
Listen, I don't think anything here that's happened has increased public confidence in the Attorney General of the United States. And that would be great. Listen, I think we need to have one of the reasons we're such a great economy is public confidence in rule of law, order, our institutions. That has not gotten better throughout this process. And I think this sort of pre-buttal doesn't help that. But ultimately, I think if this report more or less is in keeping with what Barr said, with a little thumb on the scale, and then I think we'll move on.
Do either of you have a good feel for what's going to happen with on the Democratic side of things, and who's going to? That's another Game of Thrones. I mean, there's the over and under is 20. I guess I saw yesterday that Biden's guy said everything's on track for him. But do you think that Bernie can? Will the Democratic Party allow Bernie to be the nominee, James?
Yeah, I remember answering questions where the Republican Party allowed Donald Trump to be the nominee.
Right.
Yeah, I think Bernie Sanders. That's what's sort of interesting. The bid and ask here has widened between what Republican economics looks like and what Democrat or Democratic Socialist economics looks like. So, I mean, I think this is. I mean, we always say it's a big election.
You
it
think
is
he
going to be
could
a pretty
win,
big
Jim?
election.
They
If Bernie
said-
Sanders is bigger.
Yeah, they said Trump couldn't win either.
sorry.
I saw Messina say yesterday that I think he was a Hillary Clinton type. He said no. He just gave a one-word answer. No, Bernie Sanders can't win the overall election. You think he can win, Chuck?
Yeah, well, certainly the markets seem to think so. You look at managed care stocks the last few days. He had a really good week the last couple of weeks. He had a great town hall meeting on all things Fox, and he basically has outflanked the president on the trade deal, the U.S. MCA trade deal, which is very smart out in those key states where the president needs re-election. So Bernie Sanders is showing very well to start.
And I wonder whether the core of the party's more with him than with Vice President Biden.
I think so.
Well,
You do?
I
I don't know about Jim.
I think those activists, I think that's where the energy is, certainly.
Right.
All right, who's the VP pick for Bernie? What would be the smartest one, do you think?
Maybe somebody like Sanders. I don't know.
Like who?
Jim?
You-
I mean, excuse
I
me, like
think-
Harris, like Kamala Harris.
Kamala.
I was gonna say Kamala Harris too. You beat me to it.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
Sanders, Harris.